Oh, come on. You go. Being there. Probably true. That would tend to stop. Well, he did a nice job on that pickup. Never got to see the first picture. You write that on a piece of paper and give it.
Okay, it didn't work last time. Let's try it again. If I-
You wanna get breakfast or lunch?
I don't care.
Breakfast with us,
I'm retired.
8 AM, bright and early.
Breakfast at 8 AM, breakfast at 5 AM.
I'm up at 5 AM. with the kids. I'm not eating breakfast. I'm feeding them breakfast.
Yeah, just come up with a plan and send me a text and I'll get it written in my book and I'll make it next time.
8 AM, September 2nd, breakfast, be there or be square.
Okay. Where is there?
Oh, where do you want to go?
You're the downtown guy. I'm usually in the slums out at the barbecue for breakfast or something.
Want to do Kynos?
Sure. Yeah. Coffee group will be gone by then, so you won't get there after.
Oh, no, it might be that. Won't be my first rodeo.
Yeah, so you're walking down the street before yesterday. Yeah. Good old days, yeah. You did most of your work out of the office. Yeah, trust me, life doesn't get simpler.
My computer won't. I thought I had to charge it.
Oh, I see.
Hi. Hey guys, how's it going?
What's up, man?
Good. Hey, dude. We've never met in person.
I know.
Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, good to meet you.
How you doing?
Oh, pretty good.
Good. Nice to meet you.
What's your name? Nick. Nick, okay, Mark.
And Mark. It's easy to remember. It's my brother's name.
Hey man, how's it going?
Hey,
Hey, in person.
I know, right? We're doing it big now. Look how many of us.
It's an army.
It's just a planning commissioner.
Army.
Anything will just puzzle them to death with what we're doing.
There you go. Huh?
You say what?
Hello, Paula.
Outdoor voice and into the microphone.
I've been thinking about it every single day.
Don't think I have an indoor voice.
Yeah, that's the best. Good. Just gearing up for another heat wave, dude.
Heat wave as in temperature?
Yeah, the one that starts up next.
Oh,
Whenever
as
it
it
starts,
starts.
dude. I'm already like at my limit, so.
Yeah, I'm all done.
Me too. On the water.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's, I just,
A little.
when it's a buck 07.
The Katan has become like my living room.
Oh, nice.
I can't wait. I just got to go rafting for work today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
Wow.
like I just got to spend the day on the river with a bunch of kids. This is
That's
awesome. I work at the next door.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's just like
Awesome.
anything
Yeah.
that the youth want to do. Let's
Yeah.
go.
I bought, played a little whitewater kayak.
That sounds great.
You mentioned you have a kayak? Where you like to go? Oh, okay.
Whitewater.
We like to do the whitewater. I've got a two-man kayak. Me and a friend of mine go down, or sometimes out on the river. We've done a couple of areas on the Klickitat River.
Where I usually go.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Where do you
Uh,
go? Look at that.
I've mostly done Lytle to down to Klickitat.
Bundle of nerves.
Yeah.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. Game time. Okay. Good evening. I'll call this meeting to order. This is Planning Commission, August 11th, 2022. Time is 5:30. Paula, will you please start the roll call?
Charlie Aparicio is absent. Cody Cornett,
Here.
Flip Mosher.
Here.
Via Pena. and Mark Popoff.
Here.
Nick Portella.
Excellent. Thanks, Paula. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, we'll have the approval of the agenda, please. Would anyone care to approve the agenda and second that?
I motion to approve the agenda as written.
I'll second. Oh,
Excellent. That's, the agenda has been approved and seconded. All in favor of approving the agenda, raise your right hand and say aye.
aye.
Aye, unanimous. Approval of minutes, July 7, 2022. If all have reviewed the minutes from the meeting of July 7th, 2022, may I please have a motion to approve those minutes and a second?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
That motion has been, or that approval has been motioned and seconded. All in favor of approving the minutes from the July 7th, 2022 meeting, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous as well. Next, we'll move on to public comment. I do want to make a quick clarification about this segment of the agenda. During this portion of the meeting, anyone may speak on any subject that does not later appear in the agenda. 3 minutes will be allowed per person. So later in this meeting, we're going to talk about a building height restriction for proposed development downtown. We're only going to talk about the building height, and that's it. So if there's something that you'd like to talk about aside from the building height, the public comment now would be the time to make that comment. So when you come on up, just please state your name. You'll come over to that seat right there. Just state your name and address. And yeah, we'll have 3 minutes. We'll start a little timer for you and we look forward to it.
My comments are both apart from the building height, but related to restricting comments that I make.
Chair Cornett. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
This
Yes,
is
I can.
Jonathan.
Sorry.
The microphone is not picking up any public comment.
So
So
if
I
you
don't
don't-
think that microphone is off.
I just want to make sure.
I don't know who's speaking or if there is a
Excuse me?
person speaking.
Sit down, and while you're asking your question, so we can. That's okay.
Close enough? Close enough?
You're good. Yeah, just state your name and your record and then get going.
My name is Warren Sawyer. My wife and I own Sawyer Properties here in the Dalles.
Excuse me, I need your mailing address as well.
500 East Third Street, the Dalles, Oregon. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah. And
Online?
is there a way that you could separate the building height thing and the not building height aspect of it?
I'll try.
Perfect.
Maybe I'll come back later and speak.
Yeah, that's totally fine if you want to come back during the public hearing part.
First, thank you for your time and allowing me and others to voice concerns regarding the proposed development and right now, not the building height. First, I want to say that I'm for development and improving the downtown area and our community. And this development certainly has some positive aspects with very attractive conceptual drawings, but the development also appears to have some serious issues based on what I've seen. First, some facts as I know them, which have a bearing on this application, should not be excluded from the discussion to approve or deny the conditional use permit. It is my understanding that the development proposes a 5-story structure, ground floor business, retail of approximately 9,800 square feet, 4 stories of residential totaling 100 residential units, with 36 on-site parking stalls, which includes 2 ADA stalls for 100 apartments, retail employees and customers. Conditional use permit also calls out for 22 additional on-street parking spots, but most, if not all of those spots, are in the downtown parking district for customers and are designated as prohibited parking under municipal code 6.08.020, which prohibits a person park vehicle in a zone while at their place of employment, business, profession, or residence. This zone encompasses most of the central business district. So essentially, this development proposes 36 parking spots for the employees of almost 10,000 square feet of retail, 100 residential units, facilities, maintenance, staff, and customers. I'm not sure I'm not sure what the parking requirements needed, but easily could be 4 to 5 times or more 36 spots. I've been told the proposed development is within the CBC2 subdistrict and that the minimum parking requirement may be waived as a result. Development is not required to provide parking. So as a result of this being in this CBC2, it says the requirement may be waived. Actually, I believe the code states that off-street parking requirements may be waived for CBC2, not that it is waived or exempt or has to be waived, that it may be, which sounds like me like it's up to the Planning Commission's discretion whether to waive or not. The words may be are important, and the Planning Commission needs to consider the intention of the ordinances are to provide for business development within the central business district. So you are not restricting small business development in an area where parking is limited and should be reserved for customers. I don't believe the intention was to provide for a large mixed-use development to include hundreds of residential units without regard to some unintended consequence. I'm going to go ahead and read the final part of this.
If you don't mind, we've hit our 3-minute mark. Is that
In your agenda, it said I had 5 minutes.
okay? Then we'll give you another minute and a half.
The applicant has requested a 2-stage review process where the conditional use permit for a building height increase is requested first, then phase 2 for all other aspects. It's my opinion that the 2 different reviews are linked and not mutually exclusive. The ramifications of approving additional building height. By increasing the building height, you also open up for the potential of an additional floor of either retail or residential, which changes the potential occupancy of the building and future parking. Because of this, I'm opposed to the conditional use permit allowing for additional height and ask that you carefully consider all aspects of the project and ensure that it's an asset to the downtown community instead of a liability to other downtown businesses, landlords, residences, because the infrastructure cannot support.
Okay.
I have copies of all this if you'd like.
Yeah, you'll submit that to Paula. No, just comment, no discussion.
Russ Brown, 903 East 14th Street, Dells, Oregon. Here representing myself, who serve on the Dallas City Traffic Safety Committee. And I don't care how tall the building is. What I care about is, in light of some other projects that have been approved, created parking problems, really concerned about this one. Ridiculous to think that the people that are living in that 100 unit building are going to ride bicycle. There'll be at least 1 car associated with every one of those units. Some of them could have as many, probably as 3.
Mhm.
We've got a parking problem downtown as it is. I'm going to tell you about a couple of projects that I think were handled badly by the planning committee. The migrant farm worker housing out on West 10th Street. There are 12 to 15 cars parked out on the street there every night because there's about a third too few parking spaces in there. The residential area, they park in front of other people's houses so that people come to visit them, they got to park someplace else. But Community One and Center for Living down on just off Weber, there's a ridiculous parking problem down there because they underestimated how many cars would be actually in that parking lot. And it has been somewhat rectified for the time being because they've got a temporary parking lot down near their building now. But if that lot there is future developed, I expect that there'll just be a whole lot more cars than it can hold. The hospitals going in across the street. Like, I'm really concerned. We deal with traffic problem or parking problems at traffic safety virtually every meeting. And to disregard what's taken place in the past as far as the parking choices. Hope you'll really think long and hard about this. There needs to be, if it's a 2-bedroom apartment, there should be 2 parking places. Because there could be as many as 3. There may be only 1 in some of them, but seriously, I'm about it.
And if you have anything written, you can submit that to Paula for public record. Okay. All right, next person.
My name is Ron Walters. I never didn't write down any kind of speech. I own the property at 602.
Will you make sure you tell us your address too?
What?
Tell us your address, your mailing address.
That's what I started to do, sir.
Oh, sorry.
602 East Third, 518 East Second.
Okay.
Is that good enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I guess I'm against the added height because I'm worried about the effect of the 100 units apartments because of the parking.
Okay.
I mean, okay, I rent out both spots and being a landlord, my tenants expect to have parking close to their business. And I'm afraid that there's going to be no parking. And I don't know, it doesn't seem like it takes too much thought process to realize that where are you going to put all the cars? I mean, this is a beautiful town. I mean, I grew up in the Dalles and it's fantastic. I mean, that's why I bought more property here because it's a great place. And I hate to see it change that much.
Hmm.
So anyway, that was it.
Okay, thanks. And if you have anything written down, make sure you give it to the planning department, Paula.
Daniel Bonham, 624 East Second Street.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo the concerns. As a person that owns a vacant lot that posed a 2-story in front, 800 square feet of retail space, 800 square feet of office space with 2,400 square feet of warehouse space. My requirement from the city was 7 parking spaces. I think about equal and fair play. I'm going to propose to bring in not a place of work that would maybe have 2 additional employees that would require 7 parking spaces, but residential spaces that I know for a fact are going to have some cars. Whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know. So the developments in the community that shows that traffic pattern is a significant concern. So I don't envy you your position. I know we need affordable housing. I know we need development. We need to be responsible and we need to be fair and equitable in our decision making in our process. That if we're going to require significant parking spaces or certain types of that are non-residential that would only come with parking requirements at a certain time of day need to be considered. So that would be my request for this group.
Okay, thank you.
Vince Van, for Jack's Body Shop, 619, 621 East Second Street, and a lot behind it. Everybody's talking the height issue. Of course, you already know that that's not what we're all concerned about. But when I was getting ready, a few months ago to develop my back lot, we got all the cars parked in the lot and we park them outside the lot during the day. And they complain if we don't put them in at night, they're gonna get towed away. So why do I have to get my cars tagged and towed away if I don't have the space for them all? And I've been here 30+ years and somebody wants to develop this type of a unit. And they only have to have 36 spots. I have 50 cars on the lot every night usually. And you want me to put them back in my lot every night? And I do most of the time. And people ask me, well, when you develop this, what are you gonna do about parking? Same thing I've been doing all this time. I'm just gonna put the cars in the building that where the building's at now, park the rest of them in the other spot. But I can't control who tows cars in, who doesn't tow cars in. So I'm trying to do my part down there to keep my parking. So we try to get them off the street at night and this and that. And all of our neighbors, and we have a marijuana shop that just showed up in front of our building, and seems like that's pretty popular for taking up parking spaces. And that's just one little, I don't even know if that's 800 square feet up there that they're using. You're going to propose this type of deal with 100 parking spots? Really? Where's the garage to park the cars? Is it in the building? Is there a building design for those cars? Why don't they add a floor for parking? It has to be done, guys. You can't just ask people not to park. And then we got neighbors that we're parking from because we don't have nowhere to park. We're all in the same boat in that corner down there, all the whole town. So logic tells me to either add a parking garage structure into that building, or it's just not feasible. I'm all for it too. I want growth. So there's got to be something to do with that. I mean, you can go up as high as you want. If you're going to go 60 feet, put a parking garage in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think if that's everyone for public comment, we have a few people on the Zoom call. Are there any Zoom people that want to add public comment? Looks like no. Okay, we will move on from that. A lot of great public comments, definitely some consistencies in there. I think some of the parking stuff will be coming up later in this, way down the road of this application, probably in a more formal manner. So that's good. Item 7, quasi judicial public hearing. Pardon me while I read from the script, as we'll dive into that. Now is the time specified for the Planning Commission to conduct a public hearing. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider the following matter. Consideration of conditional use permit application 205-22, requesting approval of a height increase to exceed the maximum allowed height of the underlying zoning district for mixed-use multifamily development. The substantive criteria upon which the Planning Commission will base its decision in this matter are found in the Dallas Municipal Code, Section Title 10, Land Use and Development, Article 3.050, Conditional Use Permits, Article 5.050, CBC Central Business Commercial District, Section 10.6.090.010, Height Limitation Expectations. A public hearing is required by law and certain rules apply. First and foremost, you must be recognized by the chair in order to speak and present testimony. When recognized by the chair, please proceed to the microphone and state your name and mailing address for the record. The hearing is required by law to be recorded. Generally, the public hearing procedure is as follows. Prior to the public hearing, a determination will be made of the qualifications of the commission members and allow for challenges from the audience. I will open the public hearing with a staff report. The purpose of the staff report at this point is to further identify the applicable criteria of the case being considered and to provide background information about that case. After the staff report, we will hear testimony from the applicant. Next, there will be testimony from the proponents, those in favor of the application. Next, there will be testimony from the opponents, those not in favor of the application. Next, there will be testimony for anyone who wishes to offer testimony or ask questions. Then, to honor the right of rebuttal, we will again hear from those in favor of the application. To expedite the hearing, the commission members may ask questions of persons as they testify. When this process has been concluded, we will close the public testimony portion of the hearing. During the hearing, some important standards apply. First of all, those who testify must hold their testimony to the decision criteria. As in all land use hearings, there are a complete set of rules, procedures, and criteria we must follow. Second, failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the commission members and parties an opportunity to respond to that issue precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Third, the failure of an applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with detail specific enough to allow the city to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in the circuit court. Fourth, prior to the conclusion of the public hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. If such a request is made, the law states the commission must grant the request by either continuing the hearing to a time and date at least 7 days from the initial hearing, or the record must be kept open for a period of at least 7 days. These are the rules. Are there any questions? Have any members of the commission had any ex parte contacts, conflicts of interest, or bias which would prevent you from rendering an impartial decision on that matter? Commissioner Portello? No. Commissioner Mosher?
No.
No.
Commissioner Pena? I thought I saw her up. Okay, thank you. Does anyone in the audience wish to challenge the qualifications of any members of the commission? Okay. The public hearing is now open. May we have the staff report, please?
All right, I'll just share my screen here, just a moment. So good evening, commissioners. My name is Caitlin Cook. I'm the associate planner with the Community Development Department. I'm presenting this evening on behalf of Josh Chandler, who is the senior planner and the interim director of the Community Development Department. So today we're talking about the conditional use permit 205-22. The applicant is Chris Hodney from Hacker Architects. The landowner is TD Third LLC, and the address is 523 East 3rd Street in the Dalles. This property is zoned Central Business Commercial, and it's in the Subdistrict 2. So what the applicant is proposing or requesting approval of a height increase to exceed the maximum allowed height of the underlying zoning district for a mixed-use multifamily development. The proposed height of the building is 60 feet tall, which exceeds the maximum building height in the CBC zone of 55 feet. So just some background, this building is formerly known as Griffith Motors. 2 comments were received during the 14-day comment period. One was from Jay Wood, the fire marshal, and the other was from Brandon Pike from the Oregon Department of Aviation. And essentially, they both said that they did not find any issues or with the height increase. This application, so if you want to think about it in steps, this is the first step is a conditional use permit for the height increase. And then the second step would be a site plan review. And a site plan review is a holistic look at the property. We look at, design features, parking, traffic impacts, and anything else that their code requires us to look at.
You okay to ask questions?
Yeah.
So are we at all addressing parking today?
No, so this application is just for the height increase. So in our code, it basically says if you want a height increase in the CBC zone, you need to have it done as a conditional use permit. And all conditional use permits are heard by Planning Commission. So here is the proposed lot plan or site plan. And just to kind of start in on the review criteria. So as I stated before, the maximum building height within this zone is 55 feet. However, the building height may be increased up to 75 feet tall with the conditional use permit. So they're, applying to do 60 feet, which meets the criterion. All other standards that are applied to this application is addressed in the staff report. So as you can see from the proposal, the overall height of the building for human occupancy is 60 feet. And that exceeds the height limit of 55 feet, which you can see in the building elevation breakdown here. So 3 feet and 4 inches of the building is for necessary roof structures. However, the applicant presented the building height as 60 feet because this is what relates to human occupancy. And then there are some provisions in our code that allow for, looking at human occupancy height versus essential roof structures, such as like a chimney or parapets, things like this. So staff determined that this discrepancy between the two height measurements aren't really that important to this application since they both go under the required 75 feet maximum. So all buildings within the CBC zoning district may be increased by 20 feet, so 55 to 75 through the conditional use application process. And that's what brings us all here today. The criterion is met for this height limitation exceptions. This is a height comparison that the applicant provided. As you can see, with the height increase, there is a higher first floor. The applicant stated that they were interested in, having a higher retail space, higher ceilings for retail space. And then without the height increase, you can see that it's a little lower. So looking at impacts, some of these impacts do not really apply to this height increase. Normally with conditional use permits, we're looking at like a whole site or a use that would have like bigger impacts, but with just a height increase, noise impacts, there would be no additional noise impacts from just the height increase with this application. Lighting impacts, lighting will be assessed during the site plan review process. And with just the height increase, we didn't see any additional impact. So dust and other particulate matter, staff determined that height would not impact this. And staff also determined that a height impact would not impact odors. So the criterion above is not applicable. Looking at more impacts. So vibrations across property lines, no impact. Transportation impacts, which we've heard a little bit about today, is going to be talked about during a site plan review application for the entire site. Just the height increase alone does not impact the transportation or transportation system. So this property is outside of the historic district and is not designated as a historic landmark. So there's no historical significance. So the criterion above is not applicable.
I imagine the plan is to tear the current building down.
Yes. So yeah, that's going over all of the impacts for a conditional use permit. As you can see, just a height increase, there's not a lot of applicable impacts as shown in our code. So therefore, staff recommends approval with conditions. And those conditions of approval would be that the final building height must be consistent with the plans included with the conditional use permit. And following an approved conditional use permit, the applicant must proceed with a site plan review to site and construct the development. So this means they'll need to go through additional review, kind of like that two-step process I was talking about earlier. Okay, so do you have any questions about what I proposed? I do have your alternatives here. So our recommendation would be to approve the conditional use permit, or if you would like to deny the conditional use permit, you just need to move to direct staff to prepare a resolution for denial.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, with these conditions that you just described, one of them after this, if this is approved, is the site plan review, which involves things like parking, which has been a topic during the public comment. Something that
Yes.
will certainly be formally addressed later.
Yes, parking is a
Okay.
huge thing with every development, right? And so site plan review really looks at not just the number of parking spaces, but the amount of landscaping, where it's located, and just greater impacts So public improvements, all that stuff.
I'm just saying that so
Yeah.
that everyone knows that's happening later.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like whether this is approved or not, it's just going to determine how tall the building is. They'll still need to do that site plan review regardless of whether this is approved or denied.
Well, that's correct. I mean, it would, if you denied the application today, it'd be
sure.
denying making the building as high as it is. They could still go forward with a site plan review at 55 feet.
Got it. Thank you.
My question is, how does that height compare to other buildings downtown? Is this significantly higher than any other building or other buildings outside of the silos that are at this height?
So part of our review process doesn't really include a neighborhood compatibility study, but the applicant did provide a comparison to other buildings in town. I believe the highest building, at least in the historic district, would be the Commodore building. And I might be wrong, but it might be 63 feet tall.
61 feet.
61. Thank you.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Yeah. And everything else is significantly lower. I'm seeing 41, 35, 40, 35. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Does the applicant wish to present information about the proposal? If so, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir, I will. I'm Chris Hodney with Hacker Architects. I'm representing our client who's the owner and the developer. How long do I have? Is it 5 minutes?
5 minutes, please. Yes.
Can I share my screen? Oh, go ahead.
I need your address and then yes, you may share your screen.
Oh, my home address?
Well, your mailing address is fine.
It's 12301 Southwest Athens Lane. And that's Wilsonville, Oregon 97070.
You.
How long do I have to present?
5 minutes, please.
5 minutes. Okay, great. Thank you. Well, so we have this in the packet. And thank you for your conversation today about this. We'll take a lot of this into heart in the site plan review. But when we first started designing this building and thinking about what's possible, we were really inspired by obviously the natural surroundings downtown, but also just the really vibrant, like active pedestrian oriented downtown that you have there. It's really phenomenal. And we see the variety of building widths and the height and glassiness of these tall ground floors, and also the simple ordered facades of the building as really defining character of downtown. And so we're excited moving forward for the opportunity to design kind of a modern day mixed use version of those buildings, utilizing the same timeless approaches to complement and reinforce the downtown character. And in our mind, it all begins with the ground floor, having a really strong ground floor and a successful pedestrian experience. The zoning 55-foot height limit, if you can see that here on the right, for comparison, that does allow 5 stories of housing and results in a 15-foot ground floor. And that is a viable commercial ground floor height. You do see that in some neighborhoods in some cities, but for a building of this scale with this much retail and such importance to have active storefront for the lifetime of the building, it can be pretty limiting as far as the tenants that you get, mostly because it yields anywhere from a 13 to 14-foot ceiling. And so that's the purpose of our request today is under this conditional use is to have 5 foot of additional building height with the intent to put all of that in the ground floor, as you can see in the section on the left with a 20-foot ground floor height. We think this height adjustment is going to really provide a lot of great opportunities and benefits to the project and the project's ability to meet the greater the overall goals of the district and the intent of the zoning. First, it allows us to provide a ground floor scale that's directly consistent with other multi-story buildings in the neighborhood. You can see on this page, there's a huge variety of building widths and heights throughout the district, but there's a pretty consistent range of between 17 and 19 feet for the majority of these more prominent corner buildings within the neighborhood. Our proposed building would also be roughly the same height as the Commodore, which Caitlin just mentioned. We're estimating about 61 feet for that building. So it's almost exactly the same height as what we're proposing, and the ground floor height would be as well. And we have an opportunity with our development to think about this as a bookend on the east side of downtown, the same sort of gateway and the way the Commodore anchors the intersection of Third at Court. We could create that same sort of vitality and gateway at Jefferson and Third as well with this development. And then third, the additional ground floor height, we see it's going to increase the flexibility and the leasability of the commercial spaces. Taller ground floors are attractive to a wider variety of commercial tenants. For instance, restaurants and even microbreweries or pubs, they're often seeking taller spaces just due to their larger open seating spaces. So the taller ceilings allow greater natural daylight deep into the space, better sense of openness for their clients, and then also improves acoustics, which is really important for those spaces. And also we're finding that these tenants, they actually have kind of special needs as far as oversized specialty equipment that they have, particularly a microbrewery or a brew pub, who we've had some interest for part of this building. They have equipment that's just so large it doesn't fit in a 15-foot floor to floor. And then even the smaller coffee shops, offices, any smaller spaces, they'll also benefit from the height because of the potential that you could add a lofted space. So there's an opportunity for more storage or secure office space, or even more seating for their customers, which is really critical to especially a smaller footprint retail space like some of those will have. So the requested height we see as adding flexibility in how the spaces are sized and how they're leased long-term. And therefore that improves the viability of keeping these spaces filled and the storefronts active as the markets and demand shift in the city. How am I on time?
Just got another couple seconds, 20.
Okay, well, I'll wrap up then since Caitlin showed you these, but thanks for your time and your consideration. Happy to discuss any of the other illustrations in our application.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that additional information about the proposal from the applicant. Does anyone wish to testify in favor of the application aside from the applicant themselves? The audience. Okay. Does anyone wish to testify in opposition to the application? Anyone in the audience or on Zoom directly related to the application that is the height restriction? Sure, come on up.
My name is Warren Sawyer. My wife and I own Sawyer Properties, 500 East 3rd Street, Dalles, Oregon. First of all, I'm opposed to the height increase. Don't believe it's necessary. I mean, he gave some reasons why. But most importantly, in his reasons why, he mentioned the option down the road for a loft or a second story, which this 20-foot height would allow, which increases the square footage of the property, which causes other issues to take place. So I am adamantly opposed to increasing the building height. Some of this seems like they've gotten the cart before the horse with this application or review process, where they're asking for this before they even have a site plan review process and discussing other issues that are more important. from the plans that I've seen, the extensive drawings, the beautiful concepts, I mean, it looks great. I mean, I have no qualms about, what it potentially can do. But they appear, because of the expense that they've spent and the drawings and all that's been taking place, it appears that possibly the development already assumes that they're exempt from certain code requirements. And it's just like, we're doing things backwards. I'm opposed to this for that very reason. You're getting the cart before the horse. You have to do other things first in order to determine that this is a viable concept. And it's just not necessary at this point to approve an additional building height when you don't even have viable site plan review in hand. Or you do, and it's kind of a done deal, but I hope that's not the case. I mean, that's what you guys are for, is to thoroughly review and see what the potential consequences are of the whole development in relation to our town. So I think 20 feet, for an inside retail single story is overkill. 15 feet is more than adequate. It's a nice height, gives you extra roof height. I don't like the idea of an 8-foot, 9-foot ceiling. It's close, but 15 feet's adequate. So for some of those reasons, I oppose the additional height increase. The cart's before the horse. You guys this is going backwards. You gotta stop and do this in the proper order. Otherwise, people are wasting their money, with architects and drawings, all that's going on here, because it's just something's not right in the way this process is going down. A little bit, I don't want to hope this isn't the case, but a little bit looks like smoke and mirrors to me. So all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Does anyone wish to testify in opposition? Is there anyone else that wishes to testify in opposition to the application that is the height restriction? No. Okay. Does anyone wish to testify that are not in favor or opposition, or that would like to just ask some general questions? If so, please state your name and date for the record. General questions to the applicant, I guess general questions to us.
I need to state my name and address and all that again.
Yeah, if you would, please.
Warren Sawyer Properties, 500 East 3rd Street, the Dalles. So I have a general question, not regarding the building height.
Okay, what's it about?
It's about the potential codes that are associated with the site plan review. And this question would be more directed towards Josh.
Yeah, that's probably, I would just keep that for the planning department. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you bet. Okay, any further questions? Excuse me. Do the commissioners feel they have enough information to make a decision? After, ask your questions now, because once we close the public hearing, we're done asking questions. We're just going to talk amongst ourselves.
Chair Cornett,
For us to ask questions?
Yes.
sorry for interrupting. Just want to indicate that proponents will have an opportunity for rebuttal. And it's something we should afford proponents to the extent that there is anything to rebut.
Sure.
And now would be an appropriate time for that.
Okay. Mr. Howdy, do you care to address any of the questions that were brought up by Mr. Sawyer, or, well, Mr. Sawyer is the only one who said anything, but do you care to address any of the things that he brought up?
Well, I can't comment on the process, the two-phase process, but I just want to reiterate that 15 foot is a viable commercial space. But our intent here is to, we want to activate this frontage for the good of the neighborhood as much as possible. And so our goal is to make the most flexible and attractive retail space. That's the ultimate goal of why we're interested in doing this higher ground floor. And we also think that it fits in with the context to have a higher ground floor. I will say that we have, like I mentioned, we have had some pretty serious initial conversations with a brew pub and microbrew, and it is something that's required for them, is to have that added height. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Any questions from the commissioners right now?
Yeah, I do have questions.
Okay.
So I can totally understand the questions about process. It does seem strange to separate one particular aspect of this development from everything else, and possibly more important part. So is there a way for us to either reverse that or make that part of the site review, or are we absolutely bound to make a decision on this question without the site review?
Well, so I guess, are you asking like to not make a decision tonight and make a decision after the site plan review process?
Either after or as part of, yes.
So I think what most applicants do, right, is when we go through a site plan review, we want to see how it's actually going to be built, not an idea of what's going to happen. So we look at the same codes with building codes, we partner with other agencies to make sure like we're looking at what's going to be proposed. And so it's kind of like typical with other applicants if they're applying for like a variance, perhaps. So you guys have heard variance applications before. So basically somebody would go to you for a variance and then they would go through the review because they want to know if their project is going to be viable. So this viability, that we're talking about now, is the height increase. So they could reduce it and then it would go through just the site plan review process.
So you said that's the typical process. And what I'm more interested in is what are we bound by? Can we
Commissioner
make?
Mosher?
Yes?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Terrific. I think, not to interrupt Ms. Cook's explanation, but I sort of wanted to get to the heart of the matter, as you indicated. So typically, everything that Ms. Cook said is absolutely correct. But generally, as far as the city's obligation to make a final decision on this application, we are bound by state law to make a final decision within 120 days after the application is deemed complete. And so it's my understanding that the application was deemed complete on July 8th. And so the city must make a final decision on this by 120 days from July 8th. And in this case, it's my understanding the applicant has elected to take part of this two-part conditional use permit process. It's baked into our code as well. And the city doesn't have any discretion with respect to forcing an applicant down a different path. Does that answer your question?
I'm not sure. I really understand what the summary is of what you just said.
So my understanding of your question is whether the city is bound to make a decision on this conditional use application. Is that correct?
Whether we are bound to make the decision on the height restriction separate from the site planning.
Yeah, the answer is yes, because an application was submitted for a conditional use permit, which is a land use application subject to state law requiring the city to issue a final decision on that type of land use application within 120 days of its being deemed complete. The city found that this application was deemed complete on July 8th. And so within 120 days of July 8th, the city must make a final action, namely a final decision on this application.
So that means if we had the site planning meeting within the 120 days from July 8th, which is only a month ago, then those decisions could be considered as a package. Is that correct?
No, that is not what I was trying to illustrate. It's my understanding, based off of our own code, that there is a two-part process available for this type of application. Anytime an application is submitted that's a land use application, state law triggers a timeline, and so the clock is ticking from the day that the application is deemed complete. Again, as Ms. Cook was indicating, this isn't as abnormal a process as it may appear. There is a holistic look at the entire application for the entire development forthcoming as the second stage of this application proceeds. But no, there is no mechanism through which tonight's conditional use permit on the height variance can be tied to that. They are separate.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Because it's not like they can go into the site plan review with like, here's our plan for 55 feet, here's our plan for 60 feet, just in case. And like, that just isn't a thing that happens.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, cool. Cool.
I do. So I'm looking at these comparisons of other taller buildings downtown, and we are talking about the variance of 15 versus 20 feet for the bottom floor. And so we're seeing here, I don't know if you're seeing that too. No, we're seeing so 5 buildings. 2 of them have commercial first floors of 19 feet. Then there is one of 18 feet, one of 17, and one of 16. So the 20 feet don't seem out of range, particularly with what other buildings do. Certainly not more than 15 would. 15 is at the lower end, 1 foot lower than the lowest of the comparisons, and 20 is 1 foot higher. So I just think that's an interesting observation, that neither 15 nor 20 really stick out as unusual in this comparison of other buildings. I don't have any further questions.
Commissioner Popoff, do you have any questions or comments that you want to ask staff or anybody else?
No, at least not related to the height.
Okay. Commissioner Pena, do you have any questions or anything like that? Do you have enough information here to make a decision?
Yes, I think I have enough information and I don't have any questions.
Okay, I do as well. That being the case, the public hearing is now closed. We will proceed with commission discussion. When finished, excuse me, we'll proceed to commission discussion. There's too much of a blend of italics and regular typing in this script that I have. Commissioner Popoff, do you have any comments, questions, just for us, deliberations just for us, commissioners?
No, it's only 5 feet over, the height limit, so doesn't seem like a big deal. It's not like it was 15 or 20 feet over. So in fact, the grain elevator down the block is that's probably about 70 feet, I would imagine. So I don't see any problem with it.
Okay. Commissioner Pena, any
Yes.
thoughts? Yes, go ahead.
I don't really feel like I have enough information, but I also not very knowledgeable about this kind of stuff, and I'm just I'm torn, but I'm ready to go for it.
Okay. Commissioner Portello?
Yeah, no, I don't have any further comment. It's pretty, seems pretty straightforward with the height.
Okay.
I'm good.
You're good. Okay. I too am good. I think that, anytime you got to have a plan to do a site. You have to. I mean, I've done it. It's just part of the cost of building something. It's sometimes you eat it and sometimes it works. So that's where we're at now. So I understand where we're at in this process. And of course, the conditions are two of them. Final building height must be consistent with the plans included with this conditional use permit application request, and following an approved conditional use permit, which either will happen right now or not, applicant must proceed with a site plan review to site and construct the development. So there's we're just at the tip of the iceberg as far as this thing even happening. So it's a long road, and developers know that, and we need to know that too. Does anyone care to make a motion on recommendation?
The language.
The language would be on page 28 of your packet. Yes,
Motion is up on the screen if that helps.
the motion's up on the screen if that helps.
Okay. And I would motion to move to adopt resolution 605-22 approving conditional use permit 205-22 with the proposed conditions of approval included with this report based on the findings of fact and conclusions of law set forth in the agenda staff report.
I'll second that.
That motion has been made and seconded. All in favor of moving to approve the conditional use permit 205-22, subject to the following conditions of approval, which I'll repeat again. The final building height must be consistent with the plans included with this conditional use permit application request. And following an approved conditional use permit, applicant must proceed with a site plan review to site and construct the development. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
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 Okay, that's unanimous. All not in favor, say nay. Those who wish to abstain, please say so. Okay, that has been motioned, approved, and voted on. And we'll move on to the resolution. Paula, we can just do this right now, right? Okay. Bear with me. Approval of the conditional use permit application 205-22, Chris Hodney, Hacker Architects, for the approval of a height increase to exceed the maximum allowed height of the underlying zoning district for a mixed-use multifamily development. The proposed height of this building is 60 feet, which exceeds the maximum building height within the central business commercial zoning district of 55 feet. Upon approval of conditional use permit number 205-22, the applicant will proceed with the site plan review to site and construct the development. Property is located at 523 East Third and further described as 1N13E 3BD, tax lots 6,700, 6,800, 6,900. Do we just vote on approving this?
Move to approve.
I make a motion to approve and adopt resolution 205-22, Chris Hodney and Hacker Architects. May I please have a second?
Well, second.
All in favor of approving the conditional use permit application 205-22, Chris Hodney, Hacker Architects, raise your right hand, say aye.
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 Aye. All not in favor, say nay. Okay, and
Not here, Commissioner Pena's response.
Yes, I said I said aye.
okay, unanimous. Yes. Sorry. Thank you. My apologies. The resolution, we're just going to do it again. Yeah, Commissioner Pena's microphone's on, so we'll just do this again. All in favor of approving resolution PC
Hello?
6?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, boy. All in favor of approving resolution PC 605-22, approval of conditional use permit 205-22, Chris Hodney, Hacker Architects, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. All right, that's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Klebs. Any staff comments or project updates?
No updates or comments at this time.
Okay, excellent. Any commissioner comments, questions?
Nope, not at this.
Not meeting stuff?
Oh.
All right. Okay, gang, this meeting is adjourned.
Alejandro está hablando. Hold on, mija, ya llegó.
Okay,
Hello?
so before all this, I should.